Hello there, Riderflex Nation. Steve Urban here with more career advice and job interviewing tips for you. And as a quick reminder, if you enjoy our podcast, please remember to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes. And on today's podcast, we have my friend Cole Stegman, the founder and CEO of Zakah Life. Cole, how you doing today?
Hey, how you doing? I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Great. I think you mentioned, are you calling from the mountains? Are you outside? Tell me where you're at right now.
Yeah, so I'm up in Palmer Lake in a cabin and definitely sitting out back and watching the beautiful trees and pine trees out here with the sun beating down, heavy UVs. Okay.
What's your temperature? Is it good? High 70s?
Yeah, it feels probably like 78 to 81, I would say.
Beautiful. It sounds great.
Yeah.
I wish I was there. we should have scheduled it so I could come up there and interview you right there on the porch. That would have been great.
Absolutely.
So tell the listeners a little about yourself, personally. Just give us some, who Cole is before we get into Zakah Life. Where you're from, or family, or just anything you want to tell us about personally.
Sure, yeah. Well, my name is Cole Stegman, and I am native to the great state of Colorado. And I actually was born in Aurora, but I grew up in Westminster/Arvada area, which is north of Denver.
Okay.
And I have one sister and three brothers. My parents unfortunately passed away when I was a little bit younger. And so I've traveled and lived in about 28 states, including Hawaii, trying to pretty much figure out who I was along those journeys.
Wow.
And I ended up back in Colorado this April, actually, and I am not leaving.
Yeah. So after all the states you've been to, Colorado's pretty good, huh? Right up there.
Absolutely. Yeah. People tend to ask me a lot, well, dang, you've been to a lot of beaches. Why wouldn't you stay there? And you know what? For me, the beaches never change. And even like Hawaii to Florida, when I lived there, after 1 month, I never went back to the beach. The mountains, it's just ever changing. I see different things every day. And Colorado is just, it really is the great state.
So talk to us a little bit about that travel. So how old were you? Like, when did that start? Did you just take off when you're 18 and say, okay, I'm going to put on a backpack and hit states? Walk us through some of that a little bit.
Absolutely. So you're pretty close. My first leave of travel was when I was 16. Father bought me a car. It was an 89 Mercury Sable, and it was $700, and pretty sure he bought it so I would go figure out who I was.
Wow.
But anyways, so that was when I first left. And then during that many-year journey, it was about every year and a half, it seemed, I came back to Colorado thinking I need to stay here and then just head out to more states.
And were you doing odd jobs, or how were you supporting yourself back then?
I never had a bank account back then. Saving money was non-existent in my world, and basically I was just a free spirit. I mean, I literally did just travel by myself to a state, meet people within a few days, and then, I was just fortunate enough that people liked me.
Right.
And they would either put me up or they would just enjoy my story, that they would lead me to someone who had a job or, and so a lot of the odds and ends was a mix between construction and serving and that kind of stuff. And then I would just stay where I could, and then pretty much honestly got bored and then would just travel to the next state.
Wow. Well, I've met you and I've spent time with you in your home, and great personality, wonderful people skills. And I'm not surprised that you were able to just go to another state and, walk into a restaurant or a bar and all of a sudden you have 10 friends. I could see that happen. Right.
Well, I appreciate that very much.
And then tell us, I know you have two beautiful children. If you don't mind me asking about that, tell us a little bit about your family.
So, yes, I have two children. Brecken, who is my little boy, he is 2 years old, just turned June 13th. And then I have Akira, who is beautiful, and I got another story right after this with them, but she'll turn 4 this November.
That's great.
And yesterday was their first day of school. And mind you, they have been pretty much at home the entire time since they were born. So yesterday was a challenging and emotional, but yet joyful day for fatherhood.
How'd your daughter do? Did she tear up a little bit when you dropped her off? How'd that go?
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. A lot of attachment, all these kids running around. It was chaos. But, we just prayed and smiled, and we had to do the thing, as fathers and mothers do, where you just got to turn around and go.
That's great, man. We're tagged together on Facebook, so I see those beautiful photos. Great looking children, really great.
Thank you.
Great family. So tell us then, so you're traveling around, you're trying to find yourself, as you said. Walk us through how, your hobbies or your interest in hemp or CBD or cannabis, how that created, Zakah Life. Kind of walk us through how that all came together, if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely. So there's two parts to this, and I'll start from the earlier days. So I was the guy in high school that was the one that left with the 5 friends out of the entire school that would leave classes, or I should say the honest truth, ditch class, and use actual THC cannabis. And so really the passion and love for it, I guess, started back then, even though nowadays I'm not a fan of the high THC stuff. But along that journey of life, when I finally put that down in 11th grade, I always had this desire in my heart, and I really do think it came from the good of my father and the Stegman line. But no matter what we had in our bank account, no matter what we had on our plate as far as ourselves in a selfish manner, we always seemed to want to help people before ourselves. Now, some would say, well, that's a bad thing. You got to take care of yourself. Well, God takes care of me. So I've always just had this unction to see joy in people's faces and just help them in the needs that they don't have, whether that be finances, whether that be confidence. And so along those lines led up to the last, I'd say 6.5 years.
Okay.
And basically that's where I started seeking out and developing a passion for a full profile of cannabinoids and terpenes in the form of hemp. And I would actually seek out sick kids and on top of my other career and go and donate oil to them. And when I started seeing what it was doing, I knew there was something there that was coupled with my journey of life of giving and giving back and helping.
So you knew just from your past what CBD could do with the health aspects of it. You knew that just from your past, and you took that knowledge and wanted to apply it to children and help them in some way. But you were doing something else for a living at that time.
Yeah, so I was a traveling insurance agent, but it gets better because it was actually a company who worked with low-income individuals, the individuals that, because of financial situations, did not have the means to not only get something to protect their cremation or burial, but let alone if they passed, their family to do it. So again, it was a wonderful job that gave back. And yeah, but on the side, that's what I was doing.
Wow. And now at that time, was hemp legal then, or was that like a scary moment for you where you're having to kind of can I ask that question on the podcast? I don't know. Were you having to sneak around, or how did that work?
Yeah, my man, that is such an awesome question because I laugh about it now. And I don't even know what hemp was for the entire journey of my life till about 6 years ago.
Gotcha.
Just like a lot of people, CBD, what is that? Are you calling me a name? I mean,
right.
So a lot of this anti-anxiety from growing up, we didn't even know we were smoking, cannabinoids.
Right. By the way, I never even heard that word until about 2 years ago. But yeah, go ahead. Hemp is new to me of 6 years, probably just like it's new to a lot of people. But then, quickly with the passion and the burning desire and what I saw not only in the kids, but in myself, which helped me in part of my story, it was over. I was like, there was something inside that was telling me, there is something bigger for you, and it might not be an insurance. And then what? So then you're helping kids. You know what the product can do for you and for others. Now, did you always have that entrepreneurial bug where you're like, one day I want to run my own company, or that came later after the desire to just want to help? How'd that go together?
That is, again, a great question. I never really told myself I want to own my own business. I can't remember even growing up saying that.
Okay.
I think I got a little taste of it when my dad, before he passed, he chose a healthy path from his addictions, and he opened a gas station. And so when I went back to Kansas at the end of my traveling journey, I ended up running that with him for just a short while.
Okay.
But even after that, no, I've never told myself that. It really is interesting how it unfolded leading up to the incorporation of Zakah Life.
Well, tell us that. So what happened? So you woke up one day and said, okay, I don't want to sell insurance anymore. I'm going to file an LLC, and I'm going to make talk to me. Tell me how that happened.
Absolutely. Well, after my father died, and a little bit before that as well, I too got in the realm of addiction. And mind you, back up real quick, I grew up in a very dysfunctional family where I was told I had everything. I was told I had psychosis, bipolar, and with that came psychiatrist after psychiatrist and med after med.
Oh, I
and
see.
all that ever did was destroy my confidence, but also I was just very robotic and very dull. And so
that's not how I would describe you now. Trust me.
Chemical free. No.
Yeah.
So basically, it really started 6 years ago. And towards the end of my addiction, which the last addiction that I was on was opiates, I unfortunately got in that world. And 6 years ago, I had enough. And I was sitting at Olive Garden with Becca, who is the mother of my kids.
Okay.
And we were sitting there, and I was crying, and I was going through withdrawals. And it was at that point that I said, enough is enough. I said, I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
And so I Googled just random stuff, and I found this plant called kratom. Okay. And I ended up that day in Manitou Springs, Colorado, where a gentleman in an alley made me a drink of this tea from Indonesia. And I'm not kidding you, within minutes, my withdrawals and everything was gone. I have never touched an opiate since then. And so it really It really started there, coupled with me starting to use cannabinoids, which regulated and brought my body back to balance or homeostasis. And that's where the inside burning desire of myself to help and change this world on a massive level really started to unfold.
That's when it took off. So let me just ask. So you're addicted to opioids. You're going through these problems. You meet this stranger who gives you this CBD product, I guess, or I guess it was hemp, or what was it that he gave you?
This specific product was a tea, or it's an actual a tree, and the leaves are dried and harvested in Indonesia.
Okay.
And the alkaloids in this plant actually attach to the mu opioid receptors in the human brain, and so that's where that happened. But it was the hemp and the cannabinoid profiles that maintained and started with that helped my body get back.
Wow. That is fantastic. And you've never taken you haven't been hooked on painkillers since then?
Not one single painkiller, not at all.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so that all of a sudden starts taking you down a path, and then how do you decide at that point to say, okay, I'm going to turn this into a company?
So after I started taking that day and then started coupling the cannabinoids, I actually launched a company called Ground Up Botanicals with a buddy of mine. We sold this kratom online, and we did very well.
Oh,
and so then 4 years ago, I met my wonderful friend, the extractor, I'll call him, or the diluter. And I brought him the kratom, and I said, hey, can you dilute this under your patent into a capsule just like your hemp? And he said, I got a better idea for you. I know your passion is huge for this and that you've been helping people. How about I just, assist you and help you in this journey? And I said, absolutely.
Okay.
So that actually sat for months. And then 3 years ago, I moved to Iowa for the insurance company, where once I got to Iowa, I did not even sit. I put the kratom on Craigslist. It sold in 3 days. That is when I went back to my diluter and I said, okay, I think I'm going to retire from insurance. I think God's calling is here. And so it was a few days after that Becca and I were sitting Indian style on the floor and praying, and out came Zakah Life.
So that kratom product, that product itself was the beginning of Zakah Life, which is now, walk us through that. So for the people that haven't heard of Zakah Life and the products and things you carry, walk us through that. Tell us all about Zakah Life. Give us a complete overview.
So Zakah actually means purity or to cleanse oneself. It is a Hebrew word. And a fun fact on the other side, in the Muslim country, it's actually a day of the year they call the day of Zakah, where all the wealthy give to the poor. So it's, kind of twofold there. But Zakah Life, we are a full spectrum organic hemp company. We believe in the full profile of all the terpenes and cannabinoids. We believe in no chemicals. Our patented extraction process contains no chemicals. No one on earth is doing what we're doing in the dilution process.
So nobody else, no other company is making the product like yours. You mentioned, nobody else on the planet is doing this. Why? Why is that? Why? Tell me why aren't they following your lead and walk us through that.
Well, I'm not sure about following lead. I mean, 99% of everyone out there is doing the same 3 or 4 different extraction processes. But for obvious reasons, number one is the fully published government patent. So no one can mock that, or they're going to have to pay us.
I see. Okay. So you do, there's a patent. Okay. Got it. All right. Yes. I didn't know for sure. Okay.
Yeah. And then just a side reason, because I've never seen anybody do it.
I see. Gotcha. So full spectrum, just one more time for the average listener that's never even heard that. What does that mean one more time? When you see full spectrum on the product, what's the definition one more time?
Sure. Well, full spectrum means that when a finished product of hemp, or even on the THC side, cannabis, is left in the oil form or a powder form that has all the original occurring constituents, meaning the cannabinoids and terpenes, with the addition of THC that is under 0.3%. That means full spectrum, and that is absolutely the best method.
I see. Gotcha. Okay. And so how many products are you selling now, or SKUs, or whatever you call it? I don't know.
Yeah, SKUs is a good name. Product SKUs. We've got about 11 right now, with 12 coming out very soon. Okay.
All right. And by the way, I don't know if this has anything to do with it. Maybe it does. But I had there's a pain you get in the ball of your foot called plantar's
fasciitis.
Yes, that's it. So I had this pain in my foot, and so I thought, maybe it's just I'm getting old, or maybe it's because I'm on the treadmill too much. I don't know. But my wife said, "Well, why don't you try some of that stuff that Cole gave you?" And I'm like, yes, why don't I try that? So I started rubbing the stuff on my feet. I took the 500 milligram capsules.
50?
50 milligram capsules. Yeah, 500. The 50 milligram capsules. Guess what? I'm better. I don't know. So anyway, I wanted to tell you that. I wanted to share that with you. So you have those SKUs, and so the company just sells the product on their own website or on Amazon or in stores. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so yes, we have ZakahLife.com. That's where you can get all the products in the retail form. We were on Amazon for a while, but there has been a lot of hurdles with Amazon.
Oh, really?
And basically, honestly, just like our company, they weren't allowing the word full spectrum extract or CBD of any form. And so what we were forced to do is lie on the labeling, and that did not.
Okay.
Whatever. A sell is not a sell if you're lying for it. So we're no longer on Amazon, but we are in many, many retailers across the nation, and that is growing weekly. So.
Okay, but if somebody listening to this podcast, if they want to try it, best thing to do is just go to ZakahLife.com and order from there.
Correct. So ZakahLife.com, and I'll even do one for you on this podcast. Any listeners that are on there, if you go into the checkout and you type in my Zakah 15, that's 15, they'll get a 15% discount plus free shipping.
Awesome. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So how many employees now?
Oh gosh. So employees, 1099 or contractors?
Well, I guess we'll group all that into one. The number of different people you're having to lead and supervise, I guess, or the size of the team, we'll say.
Sure. Well, I look at the team as everybody that's believed in me, family and all that, but as a corporation or a company standpoint, with attorneys, with CFO, accounts receivable, managers, sales, I think we're right around 14 right now as a immediate team.
Okay, great. Wow, that's great. And the business is growing. Let me ask you this. So many people we talk to, they have aspirations to be an entrepreneur. They want to own their own business or they want to start their own thing. But most of them don't have the funds, right? They can't figure out how to finance it. They can't figure out where to get the starting capital for it. So I know people are going to listen to this interview and they're going to go, okay, well, that's cool that but how did he do that? Did he borrow some money from some family to get the first set of products made? Did he use the money from selling insurance? Like, how did he do that? Walk us through the hurdles of getting through that initial phase of getting the product made. Cause I know there's, it always takes some capital.
Oh yeah. So that's an amazing question. And that actually leads into one of my wisdom advice, I should say.
Oh, great.
When you have an idea and you have even an inkling that you want to own your own business or 501c or whatever it may be, a lot of people have those ideas and they have them for life and they fade. And so really what it comes down to is if you have it and it's burning inside of you, it doesn't matter where you start, just start.
Right.
And so for me,
that's so true.
For me, I literally moved to Iowa, worked about 2 weeks in the insurance that I was very good at. I was a state manager of the entire state. I loved what I did, but something pushed me back. Now, was I in a position to call what I thought was my forever career and retire? In the world, people would say no, but I did. I retired. We had $500 in my bank. I had Akira. We just moved to Iowa. Becca was pregnant with Brecken, and we had all these bills in a new state we've never even been to. With $500, I retired, and I started. And and funny story, a month or two after that, you probably hear things like this, but I did sell my washer and dryer my aunt bought for me. Sorry, Donna. Thank you. Wow. And to pay our rent, we just did what we had to do. It was my passion was that big. I just knew that if I prayed, woke up, and did not stop, that something would happen eventually. And so it did. About a month and a half to 2 months in, when sales started actually picking up from my bedroom, I was like,
and how many products were there at that time? Like 2, 3?
There was 3 products. So the 10 milligram, 25 milligram, 50 milligram capsules was the start.
And by the way, you're making the capsules like in your house, like you're putting it together right there.
No, so I was actually lucky there. They were already banded into a 00 vegan capsule for me.
Okay.
The capsules were.
Okay. Okay.
So when I started seeing all this revenue coming in, I told Becca, I was like, look, we got to get a CFO or accounting. I don't even know what the word is, but we need to handle the finances. And so I literally left that day. I went driving around. I met 2 people, 2 different accounting firms, and one was $3,500 for the year. The other one was $1,200. After I met with them, I drove to Sam's Club and I sat in the parking lot. And why did I go back to the more expensive one? Well, now we know. But I went back to him and ended up telling him my whole story because he asked. And when he was going to do the taxes, he said, just go home. Just go home. And so I went home and he's like, I'll call you in a few days. And he called me and he said, young man, your story impressed me. I want to invest in you. And so he wrote, that was $50,000. And
oh, holy cow. Okay. So you get a couple of SKUs with a little bit of revenue and you're like, oh my gosh, I need an accountant. And then that guy says, I want to invest.
Yeah. And I did not I wasn't even looking for investors. I just worked felt like 20 hours a day and just kept going. But that's what I'm telling you. Like, you don't see those things, right? And if you're putting it in the universe or your faith or whatever it may be for you, you just keep going and it's going to happen. It's going to happen in these kinds of ways.
I totally agree, Cole. And you're so right. If you'll just start, I think what you hit on there is so important for the listeners. There doesn't have to be this perfect plan and 15-page PowerPoint with all this, I got to have my mission statement, and I got to have this, and I got to have my logo colors, and I got to have all, like, it doesn't have to be all, just get started and just go. And to your point, which I think is really critical here, is just get some revenue coming in. If you'll just get some revenue coming in, and in fact, if you get revenue coming in, then you can worry about some of the rest of it, right? I had a friend of mine tell me one time, before I started Riderflex, this is earlier in my life, I was working with a partner of mine. We were trying to start something, and I remember a mentor of mine saying, look, just tell you what, just get some money in the bank, and then you can worry about the rest of it.
Yeah, it's true. And a lot of it's selling yourself, right? If you're the leader and you have this passion, it's really not sales, because people are buying and trusting you. Mm-hmm. The products are such a bonus and such a benefit, and every bit of important, but that's one thing I did learn. Yeah.
So some scary moments there. You're having to sell washers and dryers for cash and things like that. When was your first, what you had a bunch already, but what, after the 50,000 investment, that was a major win for you. What was another huge moment where you're like, wow, this is really like, okay, we have a real company here. Walk us through another early Super Bowl moment, maybe.
Sure. So after that happened, I moved from my bedroom to my garage. And I literally built and took wood and made shelving, and I put a little shipping system, and but what I did there in that garage through the winter cold months with a little space heater was I educated myself not how to build $1 billion company, but how to build SOPs, how to build a strong foundation, because I knew in my heart that a house built on rock will stand. Mm-hmm. And so if I focused on that, no matter what it took, whatever happened down the road would pay off. And this comes to your question.
Yeah.
So my third office, because I'll call the bedroom, the garage offices, okay? My third office was a bank. This was my real, by myself, 700 square foot loft office inside of a bank in Iowa, of all places. And while I was there, we were actually randomly visited by the FDA, Iowa State Inspection and Appeals, and also FEMA. And
you're just in the office one day and the FDA walks in?
It's actually, they went to my house because the LLC address was
right.
And I missed this call, and thankful I did, because I listened to voicemail and it was the FDA. And so I called my attorney and I said, we're nowhere near whatever this audit is. And so she called them, and it's the FDA. They said, no, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. So they were there. They shut down Zakah. And what I mean by that is I couldn't leave to make orders. I couldn't do anything for 6 days. But Steve, this is where your question answer is, because it was in that moment that I realized all the hard work I did, and bless Becca's heart. I mean, it was very difficult for what we did.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
So much being pregnant of all things on top.
Right. Wow.
But it was in that moment that all that education on SOPs, building them, chain of custody, compliancy. Hey, how do you label dietary supplements? How do you do it in the way of the FDA? It was that moment that it paid off, because they wrote the 483 at the end of the 6 days, and they did not shut us down. They strengthened us. They helped us with our labels. And that's the milestone where I said,
that's a big one. I
said, guys, we have a company.
Right. Yep. That's a big one. That's huge. Wow. Okay.
And to this day, I mean, and anyone's, I welcome them to chime in if I'm wrong, but to this day, I think we are still the only hemp company that's been personally visited by those three.
Wow. By the way, you said something there I want to make sure it doesn't get missed by the listeners. So for everybody listening, keep in mind, Cole said, hey, it was me and my garage with the space heater. Okay, getting this stuff ready, putting my shipping system together. And then you said, you moved past it quickly, but I think it's a big one. You're the one, boots on the ground, in your car with a box of product in your trunk, knocking on doors and trying to get people to buy your product. And I'm sure that was not an overnight deal. I'm sure that took a lot of work and a lot of hours to get the product indoors.
Well, and a lot of miles, man.
And a lot of miles.
Chicago, Omaha. I mean, I took 3-4 day trips just, trying to get this product out there and this name and this brand. And
right.
Yeah, my very first store, I'll never forget the $1,000 check. That was another moment.
Huge.
I called my family. I was like,
great.
I made a product and it's in a store.
And somebody gave me $1,000 for it.
Yep. That was good old Uncle Ruckus out of Des Moines, Iowa, and they are still one of our biggest wholesale accounts.
That is awesome. That's awesome. That's a moment. So you go back to your car. You by yourself? Are you by yourself? You're holding that $1,000 check and you're in your car and you're like, wow, I can't believe that's great.
I took a picture of it. I blocked out the account numbers and I sent it to 3 of my close family.
That's so good. That is really good. That's really good.
Zakah Life, right on the
so good. If you were going to give a piece of advice for a first-time CEO, or if you were going to tell somebody first time in that position, what would you tell them today? A couple of pointers.
Drop all pride that you've ever known, ever have, and daily work on being humble. Because the reality is, I still don't know what a CEO does in its full. I never probably will. And I'm learning so much every day. Thankful for my mentors, but that's probably the one advice I'd say, because I've seen now in this career choice, in this entrepreneurship, there is a lot of leaders and people that start companies out there that don't delegate stuff. They think they can do it all and they quickly fade, and it's sad. So stay humble. Stay humble. What you can't do, admit that, and find someone that can and bless them for it.
That's great.
That's the biggest thing that I've noticed in the key of this success.
Really good advice, because I meet a lot of CEOs that do think they know everything, and they're type A, super cocky. They just think their people are tools or whatever. I think that's great advice. I want to come back. I'm going backwards just a tad, but back to the people piece. I meant to ask you, now that you're hiring employees and you have a team, so if somebody calls you and says, I want to be part of Zakah Life, and you're interviewing them, what are you looking for? What characteristics or personality traits are you looking for when you're interviewing somebody?
That's a good question as well. I would like to add that we as a team of Zakah Life moving forward, as you know, are very, very eager and excited to have Riderflex help us with this.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
But for me, with the people I have interviewed, I really look for honesty in the eyes. I look for a spiritual connection, and that's not a religious connection. Don't get it twisted there.
Okay.
But a spiritual connection where you just know in your heart, you see through their eyes, and they have motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people have a burning desire or go a million miles an hour like me. I get it. And yes, some people say I'm weird. Thank you for that. I do look for that motivation of a desire to better themselves, a desire to better others' lives, and a desire just to do big things. Big thing, the key word.
Isn't it amazing how many people are just content, right? They're just content. I call it content. They're just kind of moving through life, and okay, this is what it is, and I'm fine with all of this. And not that it's about material things, but my point is they don't want more out of life in general, right? They don't want to give more. They don't want to experience more.
Right.
And they're just content. Yeah, by the way, your energy is contagious, and I'm sure that's part of the reason you're successful as a leader, because even when I was around you for the day, I left energized. And I think that's a great thing. I think team members feed off of that, right, from their leader. If their leader is super energized, usually they're super energized. Or if they're not, they don't last on the team very long, right?
Well, a great friend and a great mentor and a soon-to-be, it's a secret, so I won't announce it yet.
Okay, all right.
Told me something really cool about a month ago, and he said, a company or the team of a company will resemble the attitude and character of the leader.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I've never heard that.
Yes.
But actually, it was a reality check. A lot of the times where you can get exhausted, you really got to find balance, because he was every bit of right.
Yes. We just visited a potential client recently, and the the leader of the company had low energy, and that's exactly what you felt when you walked through the rest of the building. I mean, so yes, everybody's a reflection of the leader's spirit, energy, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So are there a couple of favorite interview questions you like to ask when you're visiting? Not to give it away. I hate to give all your secrets away, because you're probably, people will listen to this podcast and they'll be like, okay, I know what Cole's going to ask me. But are there a couple of things you like to visit with them on?
I like to know about milestones, and not specifically for the specifics of the milestone, but just to see how they react and what milestones means to them.
Okay.
That to me is an important question, because it tells me a lot about their work ethic and what standards they set for themselves. Moving back a little bit, what you said, I have something to go with that. And I said this the other day in a blog, and it's, people really do accept where they are, right? A lot of people don't know that, but they've accepted, whether it's mediocre, successful, an athlete, they've accepted that.
You're right.
And so that in itself shows me along those lines of what that means to that individual. And that's important to me.
That's a good one. That's a good one, my friend. By the way, speaking of always wanting more and doing a million things, this isn't the only company you're involved in. Right? Didn't you open a smoothie store just recently? Walk us through that. Just a quick, overview.
Yes. So I had a vision 3 years ago, and basically it was just about vertical integration. I wanted to be able to control, not in a selfish way, but in a quality control way, because when you start branching other things out, you don't necessarily have the control of that anymore, and that reflects back on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, we just launched a chain of smoothie stores called ZL Smoothie. The first one it's almost about halfway done. It's in Manhattan, Kansas, and my vision is to build 25 in 2 years. It was 3, but I'm just going for it. So 2 years, 25 stores, a beautiful franchise with exclusive hemp smoothies. And then we have IA Hemp, which is our biggest processing facility, which is being built in northern Iowa.
Wow.
And that launches January 2020. And then, of course, the farms, which I actually never wanted to own the farmland. So basically we contract out to them and they grow genetics.
Okay. Can I ask on the smoothies, are there any other, and I apologize, I don't know this, are there other hemp smoothie stores anywhere on the planet?
I have never, ever, ever seen one, which is why if you look at our logo, it says exclusive hemp.
Okay, gotcha.
Because it is exclusive genetics, but it's not just about the smoothies. The smoothies are wonderful, natural, organic strawberries, and it's not all organic, but a lot of it is. But it's more about the wellness and hemp education. We are filtering digital menus done by our blogs, by me, science, to not only have someone come in and get a smoothie, but also if they want to infuse cannabinoids into it or some other anti-inflammatory herbs that we're doing, which is a secret right now.
Okay.
They actually get to speak with our GM and our employees who are well-educated, and they will be able to teach them. So when they leave there, they don't no longer have this marijuana is marijuana, boy.
Right.
There's a difference. It's called hemp, and it is super healthy for you.
There's probably going to be people, I mean, this may sound silly to everybody that lives in Colorado at this point, but I can almost guarantee you there are going to be people listening to this podcast that still don't understand CBD and hemp don't include – like that's not the THC gets you high piece, right? They still don't get it. I really believe there's a lot of people that don't understand that.
Well, yeah. I mean, 1926 Marijuana Tax Act, that's when hemp was coupled with marijuana, and until you guys, you especially have seen it come and unfold. Yep. And so really what it comes down to is simple. You have a species. It's called cannabis, not marijuana. That's street slang, boys. No.
Right.
Basically, it's cannabis sativa L. And so the difference between what makes it marijuana and hemp is the THC concentration. So when you go over 0.3% of THC, it then becomes marijuana, or what most people know to be, stoner weed or get you high or psychosis, that kind of stuff. Anything under is industrial hemp or agricultural hemp, depending on what you're growing the hemp for.
So it is okay for the listeners. If you buy something that says hemp or CBD on it, you're not going to get high. It's okay.
So you're not going to get high, but I want to correct the stage here. So you'll see a lot of companies out there that say non-psychoactive. That is 100% false. Cannabinoids or cannabidiol, and we're speaking on just CBD on one compound, is actually psychoactive, not in the form of THC. The true word about it is it's non-intoxicating.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, I appreciate you telling me that. Okay. I didn't know that. I'm still learning something every day on it, to be honest. So at this, congratulations on everything you've done and where you came from really is remarkable. Here's a guy, I hope you don't mind me bringing this up. Here's a guy, I don't think you graduated high school, right? You dropped out. You dropped out of school. There's no fancy college education. There's no trust fund. I inherited $1 million and that's how I started my company. There's none of that. Here's a guy that, just like he said earlier, I'm selling my washer and dryer. I have one kid at home. My wife's pregnant. I'm quitting my job. I got $500 in the bank. From there to where you are now, really a remarkable story. Congratulations on what you've done so far. I'm really happy for you and really blessed to know you. I've been, like I told the listeners earlier, I've met you personally. I've been to your home. Wonderful man, and just glad to have you as my friend. And I'm really proud of everything you've accomplished.
Same to you. And I'd like to add on that too. You know how people say from rags to riches or from dark to light? Well, the motto of our company, Zakah Life, is from soul to hope. And that is every bit of what you just said.
I saw it right on the website. I was double checking the website right before we got on the call, and I saw that. And I thought, and I immediately thought, okay, I know Cole came up with that tagline. It's beautiful. Love it. So one last question right now. So, I know your kids are obviously your core purpose in life, but so let's just set that aside for a minute, as we obviously know that's number one. Besides your children, when you wake up now, what's Cole's core purpose? Like, when you wake up every day, if you had to say, okay, my core purpose is to what? My core purpose when I wake up is to follow the will of my Father and lead people with broken lives and unhealthy lives or chemical-filled lives to find that hope, right, from soul to hope, that they don't have to live that way. And no matter where they've been, what they've done, what people have told them they've done, or who they are, they were born victorious. And so my core purpose is to be that man. Yeah, one man that God can use to change the lives of millions. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And it's real. From you, it's real. Like, a lot of people may pitch that they want to help others, but, when you visit with you, it's genuine, and it's real, and you can feel it on you. And so Riderflex is glad to be part of your life, my friend. Awesome. I appreciate. By the way, you do need to write that book. I think the story is a book, and we could do it. But we could do a podcast for another 4 hours, quite frankly. And I think there's a book in there somewhere. Let's talk more about that another time. Yeah, and just so you know, we'll talk about it another time. I did name the book, and I'm going to really start working on it. So I think it's a great idea. Really, I think it is. Cole, thank you so much for calling into the Riderflex show, my friend. I appreciate it. And let's hook up again soon, okay? Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. We truly hope you find our material helpful and entertaining. And while our podcast can be heard across most platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud, you can become a supporter of this podcast by visiting our show on the platform Anchor FM. That's anchor.fm/Riderflex. You can also send us your questions or suggested topics for future episodes to the email address podcast@riderflex.com, or drop us a voicemail at 888-964-5876, extension 710. Visit riderflex.com to learn more about us. Thanks so much for listening, folks, and have a great day.